Hi, Lynn Kenyon. Thanks for joining us. Everything Montana Real Estate. We're in lovely Great Falls, Montana. Beautiful day. And we are at Flying S Title. Flying S Title formerly was First American Title. And what we're going to talk about today is titles. And in Montana, sellers pay title insurance. Sellers, buyers don't even necessarily know what that is. So we're going to visit with the manager, and then we're going to visit with the title department, and then we're going to visit with the closer, an escrow, and understanding what all those aspects in the title are, who those people are, if you're a seller, what you're paying for, and if you're a buyer, what you're getting that the seller is paying for. So it's many aspects of title. It's one of the most important parts of buying a house. You don't buy a house without title insurance. And we're going to visit with the managers and the folks here at Flying S and try to explain all those aspects to you. Thank you for joining us. We are today with Stevi Phillips. We are at Flying S Title. This is formerly First American. We're in Great Falls, Montana. Mm-hmm. Stevi is the manager. She knows all, and she's going to walk us through, like I said up front, some people don't even know what title insurance is. You pay for it. Buyer pays for it. Seller pays for it. Seller in Montana, and you're gonna see it on your settlement statement if you're a seller, and you're gonna get a title commitment if you're a buyer. So lots is going on here, and you have to come here to close. But what is this? What is this building? Who are they? What do they do? What's in it for you, whether you're a buyer or a seller? So what's in it for a buyer? Title insurance.
For a buyer. Okay. Well, let's start with what we do. The insurance part. So the insurance is so important because there's so many things that can happen in the public record in the past that if you don't do a search and you don't close with a title company, those things can pop up, like liens that haven't been paid off, past owners, deaths in family when there wasn't a probate done. All those things can pop up, and basically you could get to the point where you think you own the home, but you really don't.
So explain a search. You said it's going to show up in a search. What does that mean?
So the search is, once we get the buy-sell, we open the file and we look at the property through the public record. So we look to see what's been liened against it, and then we search all the way back to patent. So the property that you're purchasing as the buyer, we search that property and go all the way back to through every single deed, every single lien, to the very existence of someone owning the property, to make sure that there is no breaks in the chains. The liens then they get released. And then the deeds, so that everybody who's deeded onto the property is shown deeding off the property. Because what can happen if someone doesn't deed off the property, they may come across a deed in a death or a family member's going through their old records, and they realize that they own the property. And then they'll come knocking on your door and they'll be like, I have an interest in your property, you need to move. And those are real things that do happen. So going through a title company, what we do is we search all that and make sure there's none of that. If we come across something, we will fix it before you take ownership of the property. That's our job. We have to fix it.
And that's the insurance. So you're getting title insurance.
Yep.
And then the title commitment is the second part of it that we'll visit with next. But this is title insurance to know that nobody's going to knock on your door.
Yep. So it's insurance and a little bit of assurance. So the policy is the insurance that if something does happen and someone knocks on your door, we're going to be there to help you, fight along with you to dispute what they're saying. And if it, is a really bad deal and they do own the property, you're going to have an insurance policy that pays out the amount that you paid for that home.
In case you guys missed something.
Yeah.
So what happens if your mom dies and you're supposed to get the house and it's never recorded? or maybe not a probate situation, but where you two neighbors. That's a great example. Two neighbors. Hey, I'm going to give you my property. Let's just you and I go next door. We'll have a beer and we'll sign off on this, and I'll buy your property and here's your check.
So those are all things that could happen, especially back in the day. And those are unrecorded issues. So we are going to take exception to those, but we will help you fight it and help work through the process with you to get to a resolve with it. So that's one of the special exceptions we were talking about.
So as a buyer or seller, if you're trying to do this and go have a beer with your neighbor or whatever you do, you want to make sure that any agreements you have, handshakes don't count in Montana. Anything in real estate has to be in writing. You want to have it in writing, and you want to go record it.
And you want to record it.
And you guys will you help them with that process? If
Absolutely, we can. We're not supposed to prepare any deeds unless we've done a search on the property. But if you're just needing a little help within the family or anything like that, give us a call. We have some templates on our website that come in really handy for situations like that, and we can just kind of walk you through what you'll need to do.
But record. Or they can't find it.
Yep.
Because they weren't there with you when you were talking about it. And that's the problem then. That's a real problem. And it can be a serious problem.
Yes, absolutely. And then the insurance assurance. The assurance part is that, you get to the end of the day, you sign all the documents, you pay, your down payment, you go through the loan stuff, we give you the keys. That is the assurance that you're going to go home and you're going to have kids, watch kids graduate, get married, kids are going to move out, that nobody's going to be knocking on your door.
The other thing I think that is very important that I've always heard as a realtor, and I'm very careful when I do my buy-sells and my listing agreements, that it's not the address that binds something, it's your legal description. So I bought stuff myself where the address was incorrect. So the address is important. You're buying 191 Main Street, but a lot of times there's multiple legal descriptions within a single property, and those are multiple deeds, just different ways of doing things. And you want to make sure, because they're going to search based on that legal. On the legal,
So if you're writing out the buy-sell, and if you're unsure about what the property address is, just leave it. Leave it blank. Just put the legal description on there. The parcel numbers, the cadastral number, any of those will work. We also check it, but it does help to make sure nothing does get missed. But we always go off of legal description.
And our agents, we always say to be confirmed by title company. Because they go back to patent. We don't. We pull off the public record, and things get missed, and you thought you were buying 40 acres and really it's 45, and they realized they weren't selling 45. So this is the time. These are the guys who are going to establish that for you and make clear. They're going to send you a map. You're going to see what you're buying. And and frankly, that's what they're going to give you insurance on. So if that legal is incorrect, you now don't have insurance on what you thought you were buying. So that legal is an integral part of this process throughout the whole thing. And that's what they're going to go record. So if a legal gets missed, that could be a real problem. You didn't buy it. You go to the closing, you talk to Jeannie, you go through Escrow or whoever, and now that's not what you bought. You bought what they did the search on. And that's what they're insuring. So that's a really important thing that you or your realtor or a combination, everybody is looking at that.
Everybody's looking at that and making sure that they're understanding, that it's this many acres, and or this many sections of land that make it up. And that's very, very important. And that starts with usually the listing agent doing their due diligence to make sure that the property, when they're listing it, that they have the proper legal description in there.
And that's, and people make mistakes and things, there's surprises. So there are things, if everybody's watching out for them, then you have much less exposure for making a mistake. So that's why we're doing these videos, frankly, so that you do understand it's a team to make sure everything is correct. And these guys do their job, but if the buy-sell doesn't have it on there, it's not their job to say you missed lot 5. It's really everybody's buyer, seller, and agent. So anyway, I'll let you keep going on.
And as far as who pays for what, so the seller pays for the buyer's owner's policy. So the owner's policy is like what we spoke about before, where that's your policy that if someone does come knocking on your door, you have that to fall back on. And that's basically the policy is stating there's no other liens, no from anyone prior that owned the property. And that the legal description is the legal description, and that's what you will be the owner of. So the seller pays for that for the buyer. Then if the buyer is getting a loan, the lender involved will want to have a lender's policy in place, ensuring them in first lien position. And that's important because if something happens and payments don't get made and they need to foreclose, the only person that can foreclose and recoup that property is the person in first lien position. So the second policy is that lender's policy, and the buyer does pay that. It is usually worked into the loan fees and all of that, but so the buyer pays for that.
And how they pay it, how you establish what that figure is.
Oh, okay. So the amounts, we
Right.
go off of the sale price on the property. So as a title insurance company, we are regulated by the state of Montana Insurance Commission. All of our rates are filed at the state level. So they're not variable, they don't change. Actually, let's see. So the rates in place right now have been in place since 2019.
So every title, because there are
Mhm.
multiple title insurance companies, and not in every town, but in larger towns, you're going to have multiple to choose from. So you all are bound by the same.
Yes.
So they're not.
Yep.
Oh, you get a better deal at this company than that.
You know, everybody files their own rates, but they're all within pennies. You know, we're very similar. None of us have underwriters that are
Wow.
outrageous.
Yeah.
It's really all it's the underwriter who decides what those rates are. So we're actually an agent for title insurance. So we actually have 5 underwriters that we can choose from. So we do have options. So we have First American we can still underwrite with, Old Republic, Commonwealth, Fidelity, and Westcor. We usually default to First American or Old Republic. They're kind of our go-to people, but their rates are very comparable. And yeah, like I said, everybody's bound by their rates have to be filed.
Okay. So this differs. So this is your title insurance you're paying for.
Mhm.
This is an amount based on what your purchase price is. This is different than your closing agent fees, your closing escrow fees. That's also a way for them to pay the bills.
Yes.
So they've got their title insurance and then that closing fee, which is the escrow. And that's typically we talked about, or we are going to talk about at closing, typically split. Unless you're a VA buyer, you can't pay it. So that's $1,000 that they take to sit around and do the closing. So that's a different amount. So you're going to see both of those are going to be paid by somebody throughout this process.
Yep. So the premium, typically there's a portion that goes to the underwriter, but we're holding a lot of that for any possible claims. Like if anything does come up, so a lot of that money doesn't really go to the operating of our business. We do most of that off of our closing fee. So the $1,000 for a purchase is typically split $500 on each side, $500 on the buyer side, $500 on the seller side. And then the other fees that would be involved would be the recording fees. At the county, they charge us $8 a page for recording any documents. So those fees, the recording of the deed and all of the lender docs are paid for by the buyer. So it's $8 a page, a couple $100 by the time you get to the end of it. And then, yeah, that's really all the other fees
that you
that
guys
we
do.
would charge. Yeah.
So I had a gentleman the other day, I sold his property and he wanted to buy from somebody, and he said, well, this guy and I we struck a deal up. I said, and so two non-agents, nobody's involved.
Oh gosh.
You need to go get title insurance.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, we're just going to exchange checks.
The problem with that is that one doesn't know what the other one has leaned against the property. And if nobody takes care of that, then that becomes the new buyer's responsibility.
Yeah, so he could have bought it, and he has
Nope.
knocking on the door was the wrong of the
Oh,
land
yeah.
up north, but
Yeah.
that's a huge risk.
Mhm.
So
huge risk.
and then I think a lot of people who are doing these by owners, that's good for you, but don't forget this part.
No, don't ever forget this part.
Yeah, that's just a huge risk, and it can be enormous if it, depending on the price. It doesn't matter. My guy was buying something for $10,000, but it could be $1 million. And
Yeah.
you don't know, so don't. Yeah. Okay, so cut everybody out and all commissions and everything, but.
I wouldn't do that either.
Then you'd find that out too.
Those agents, they earn every dime that they get.
Sometimes, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but anyway. Well, thank you. I mean, anything else that is, again, I think that people just, so you get an offer as an agent. Typically, the seller's agent will send the buy-sell to these guys, to your contact.
Yeah.
In Montana, the other thing is that the seller chooses who they want to be the title insurance company. They're paying for it. And so they get to decide which title company they want to go through, unless it's negotiated somewhere else in the buy-sells. A lot of sellers don't care.
Right.
Agents usually, we let them decide.
Yep.
We have relationships with all of them.
Yep.
Good relationships. There's not one I would say anything bad about. But you choose and you pay as a seller, except the owner's title.
Right.
And it's important. I can't emphasize enough the importance of title insurance.
Yeah.
And just understanding it and why you come here before you get your keys.
Yes, and I will just reiterate one thing, because this is can be a problem, is we send the title commitment to the agent, and the agent will send it to you as their client. Look at that document. Make sure you understand that if you're buying a piece of property, that there's CC&Rs, there's restrictions, there's things that you may not know. Maybe you want to have a little farm and you think that you have enough acreage. However, there is covenants on the property that restrict you from having cows, or too many chickens, or things like that, or you can't paint the house blue. I've seen everything in there.
Airbnbs are a big one right now.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yep. And so just knowing what you can and can't do on the property is key prior to buying the property.
And that's what we're going to go talk about next. We'll talk to the title gals who do this search. That's their whole job, is to understand what is recorded against that you're not going to likely get off. But title insurance, very important. Anything else we're missing that we should share that buyers and sellers both should know?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thanks, Stevi.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This really helps. Thank you.
Yes.